Hello! Jack here with more Buzzword. Still the academic variety, which means I'm going to get ambushed with two computational math questions at some point on this one. These are level C questions, which are the second hardest available on Buzzword. And we'll get a little pop culture treat in there a couple of times as well. But yeah, this is Buzzword. It replicates the Quiz Bowl toss-up experience. So the clues and the questions are going to go from more obscure to more well-known. And the sooner I buzz in and get them correct, the more points I get. We got 48 questions here. These were originally written in, I think these were 2020, I think, were this set. So the current event questions are going to be from that era of 2 years ago. So let's see what they got for us. Here we go.
The protein smoothened moves up this structure's membrane in vertebrate hedgehog signaling. A group of protozoans named for this structure contains organisms with two differently sized nuclei, such as paramecia. The primary or non-motile type of this structure has a 9+0 microtubule arrangement. Mucus in the trachea is swept by the beating of, for 10 points, what hair-like structure?
Oh. I thought it would be... I thought we were talking about organelles. I guess cilia are technically organelle. Are they organelle? I don't know if they're organelle. Yeah, I'm not sure like flagella are organelle, so why would cilia be organelle? Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to check up on that after this.
Ovid claims
I'm not
that
gonna
the
remember.
poisonous aconite plant sprang up from the spittle of this creature, who went into a foaming rage upon seeing daylight.
Daylight.
During a mission to acquire this...
It's got to be this. The mythical beast that never sees daylight in Greek myth. Ovid is talking about it. It's got to be. Got to be my dog, Cerberus. Hellhound guardian of the underworld. And a good boy, really, when it comes down to it. Just a good boy.
In 2017, this member of the Senate Banking Committee told Wells Fargo CEO Tim Sloan, "At best you were incompetent, at worst you were complicit."
Oh, yeah, it's
that same year, Senate
Or
Rule
is it-
19 was invoked to stop this senator from publicly reading a letter written...
I think it's Warren. Yeah. Nevertheless, she persisted. I think that's the story they were telling. That's the story they were telling on that clue there. So I thought it may have been... No, it wouldn't have been the Senate, because the Katie Porter? Katie Porter, the lady, she's a representative who likes to get out a whiteboard and write stuff down. She's a representative, so she wouldn't have been on a Senate bank panel.
The Brunswick Manifesto threatened reprisals if this woman
Manifesto.
or her family were harmed. This woman's friend, the Princess de Lamballe, was killed during the September massacres. Soon after, this woman was driven from the Tuileries Palace. This daughter of Maria Theresa was executed in...
Executed. I mean, at this point, they said Maria Theresa, and I thought it was going to be Catherine the Great, but she was not executed, so I think we have to just go with another random... Yeah, that's a much better answer. I thought we were in Russia. I thought for a second. I had a weird feeling. I had a real hard time locating where we were at. There was some French. They said a palace that was very French, but that could have been the name of a palace in Russia. And then executed. Yeah, I should have switched over. Yeah, that was some bad buzzwording.
These particles are the majority carrier in N-type materials. These particles have no allowed states within a material's band gap, which separates regions of allowed states for these particles in the conduction and valence bands. These particles move opposite the direction of conventional current. For 10 points, name these negatively charged...
Okay. That was one I was almost overthinking. As they move against current, I thought they were going to be like anti-electrons. And I was real tempted to put that down, but anti-electrons is a pretty deep thing for this level of Quiz Bowl. I think anti-electrons are negatively charged. They're just antimatter. But yeah. Stopped myself from overthinking that one and got the points.
Edward Latham controversially added an Oxford comma to this poem's 13th line. This poem may be set on December 21st, as it mentions the darkest evening of the year. In this poem, a little horse is concerned about the absence of nearby farmhouses. The title location is described as lovely, dark, and deep by a traveler who has promises to keep in, for 10 points, what Robert Frost poem?
Yeah. Oh, yep, that's right. That's a better answer. I'm not sure I was going to get by... I'm not sure... I don't think I was going to get the whole thing there, but... Yeah, the road not taken is not set on a night at all.
This artist adopted the pseudonym Heureuse C'est la vie to be photographed by Man Ray while dressed as a woman. Upon seeing the works of Alexander Calder, this man coined the term mobile. This artist altered a cheap postcard to create his work LHOOQ, which added a mustache to a picture of the Mona Lisa. For 10 points, what artist wrote the name R. Mutt on his ready-made sculpture, Fountain, which is a turned-over...
No, it's Duchamp. All right, hopefully they'll give me that one. I put way too many S's in there. I forget with Fountain if it's Paul Klee or not, but yeah, it's Marcel Duchamp.
The baseball star Ed Delahanty died after falling off this landmark in 1903. The heavily polluted Love Canal neighborhood was just east of this landmark. The Maid of the Mist tour...
Yeah. Yeah, with landmarks and people dying, there's a list. There's a list of people who have died at Niagara Falls, and that's longer than most list of landmark deaths. But obviously, Maid of the Mist is a very buzzable point there. It's where Jim and Pam got married on The Office. And that's the only notable thing about Maid of the Mist.
A revolt in this country's southern regions led to the Cisplatine War of 1825. A period in this country's history that stretched from the 1880s to the 1930s was called Café con Leche, in reference to the powerful dairy and coffee industries. It became the final Western country to abolish slavery during the reign of Emperor Pedro II.
Pedro II was Brazil. One of the few Western Hemisphere countries to have its own emperor. Most of them, some of them were under an emperor, but they were a foreign power. But Pedro II came over with his family and was emperor of Brazil, and with the power of coffee, you know. It makes sense for Brazil, too. Still, I think, the biggest coffee producer in the world.
This country's JUIF party is aligned with the Sunni revivalist Deobandi movement. Its centrist Tehreek-e-Insaf party dominated the 2018 elections, defeating Shehbaz Sharif's Muslim League N and the left-wing People's Party of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. This country's current prime minister was a star athlete at the 1992...
This is Pakistan, then, because I think they're talking about Imran Khan. They're about to say cricket. He's the only real star athlete who's a world leader at the moment. I also think he just survived an assassination attempt. Again, putting a clear date on when I'm recording these. But yeah, Imran Khan was in the news recently.
The first manual on how to play this style of music was written by Ben Harney. The soundtrack to the 1973 film The Sting repopularized pieces in this style,
Oh, what
An
is
early piece
the...
in this style may be named after a club in Sedalia, Missouri called the Maple Leaf.
Oh, rag then. Yeah. It's like, what is... like, very familiar with the Sting. What do you call the music? It's like the Entertainer, but it's rag. Yeah, because it's the maple leaf rag.
Mixtures of molecules that have this property can be described by a quantity known as EE and can be separated using kinetic resolution. Glycine is the only proteinogenic amino acid that lacks this property because it does not have a carbon atom.
This is just talking about chirality. I'll take chirality. I know all about chirality. Chirality is a thing where the you have a certain arrangement of, in chemistry, it's atoms, and so it's the same atoms, but they're not the same. So it's like the same number of carbons and hydrogens and oxygens and whatever's in there, but it's not exactly the same because they're non-superimposable. And the best way to think about that is that, like, the most relevant thing that non-chemistry people would know that are chiral are your hands. So, like, my left hand and my right hand both have the same amount of fingers, but you can't ever get them to be the same exactly because they have different chiralities.
In exchange for the carcasses of a boar, a fox, and deer, this character gives a hunter 6 kisses. This man ties a lace girdle around his chest to remind himself that he dishonorably accepted a gift from Lady Bertilac. In a 14th century poem, this man enters a beheading contest with an opponent who could survive.
It's Gawain, then. I would say. I don't know about that deer. I don't know what that... because they're obviously talking about Gawain and the Green Knight. One of the more famous Arthurian tales. I don't know what that carcass thing was. 6 kisses. Gawain was a wild guy. I mean, he entered a beheading contest. He was he was out there, man.
This man first illustrated the difference between goods that have use value and goods that have exchange value with the example of water and diamonds. He discussed the division of labor in the first section of a book that claims free market forces create positive outcomes in capitalist economic systems via an invisible hand.
It was Smith. It was Smith the whole time. This is the kind of thing where, like, if that was middle school, I would have just buzzed in right away and said Smith because they weren't going to ask about any other economist. But with level C, I got to hang out and see if they're talking about some other ones. Because they just talk about chirality, and then next one's Adam Smith.
The speaking style of this cartoon character is based on that of Rex Harrison in My Fair Lady.
I'll take that. Seth MacFarlane has come out and said he is just doing his Rex Harrison impersonation when he does Dewey Griffin. Oh, that's an easy 20. That's an easy 20.
This man won an election using the slogan K1C2. Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. managed the campaign that elevated this head of Columbia University to the presidency.
Oh, who was Columbia?
Before Donald Trump, he was the last man who never held political office before becoming president.
Yeah, who was
that? In 2 presidential elections, this man defeated Illinois Governor Adlai Stevenson. For 10 points, what World War II general was elected president?
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. I didn't realize that about Eisenhower. I guess, yeah, elected public office he never held, but you still think of military leaders as having public service under their belt, which probably isn't accurate.
This city's Cockatoo Island, which houses a former prison, sits within Darling Harbor. A bench carved into sandstone called Mrs. Macquarie's Chair offers views of this city's harbor and was built by convicts in 1810.
Okay, so we're in Australia.
Hosting the 2000 Summer
Olympics. Okay. Oop, I did that wrong. They'll give me that one. Man, I'm not typing great today. Yeah, with for something about Darling Harbor got me thinking about uh, Australia and then Sydney. But they're really hammering hard on that convicts thing.
Many participants in this event shave their heads in a ritual known as Hulk.
Hulk!
Within Miqat boundary points, participants in this
Miqat.
event must enter a holy state called Iram. During this event, participants drink from the Zemzem well and run between the hills Safa and Marwa. All those who are able to make the journey are required to perform this fifth pillar of Islam.
That was the Hajj. It's just the Hajj the whole time. That's again, that was one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is probably the Hajj. Admittedly, those were a bunch of clues about the Hajj that I didn't know. But yeah, that was probably gettable a while back, but it would have been a bold buzz.
Pencil and paper ready.
No.
Christy needs to know the only value of x that satisfies the equation, the quantity x plus 1
Yep.
divided by the quantity x plus 3 equals 5/6. After writing out the equation, she cross-multiplies to set up a standard linear algebraic equation, and then solves for x. For 10 points, what is the value of x if the quantity x plus 1...
Okay. I've stated I'm not going to try to do the math on those. I'm going to try to do it in my head quick and then buzz in and then put an answer.
In a 2019 commercial for this company, a woman on the phone confuses a sloth for a badger and talks about squirrels following her. Recurring characters in this company's commercials include a camel who likes the phrase,
Okay. Camel loves hump day. What is that? The Government Employees Insurance Company, I believe, is what Geico is. And man, do they advertise. And like all the Geico advertisements are just because there's the advertising theory that companies that have very, very similar products have to advertise so much more because they have to differentiate themselves and just get themselves known to the customer. That's why there's a lot of insurance company commercials right now. That's why there's a lot of sports betting commercials. That's why there's a lot of car commercials, because they all essentially provide the same product and the same service. So the only way they can differentiate themselves is by advertising hard.
To raise awareness for the group Halo, this woman walked through a minefield in Angola in 1997. Mohammed El Fayed claimed his son Dodi and this...
Yeah, it's Princess Diana. And Minefield, probably could have went in on Minefield there. She was, that was her big humanitarian project after she left the royal family. I think she got into landmines. Getting rid of landmines, not generating them. And I don't think she was big anti-landmine when she was with the royal family. I think that was something she did after. Yeah, Princess Diana.
This character is believed to be an Arab by his mute slave Ali, and is thought to be Italian by his steward Bertuccio. He grows to love the rescued slave Aide, who testifies against this man's enemy, Fernand Mondego. After hiding in a body bag to escape the Chateau d'If, this former sailor buys a noble title to carry out a scheme of...
This is Edmond Dantes. Oh, they were just going to take the Count of Monte Cristo. I said his actual name. It's Edmond Dantes. Because, like, the Count of Monte Cristo kind of doesn't exist. I mean, it's a fake title. So I thought they were just, all right, I'm glad they took Dantes, because I would have been real confused about, I thought the Count of Monte Cristo was. Now, this is some real overthinking.
This is the only number in the continued fraction expression of the golden ratio. It is the largest integer that is considered neither prime nor composite.
Yeah, one's not prime. Because one is in the definition of prime, so it can't itself be prime. Because the prime is defined by, it can only be evenly divisible by itself and one. And you can't use the word in its own definition, and you can't use the number in its own definition.
A 1987 war in North Africa was named for this company, whose products were put to military use by one of the combatants. In the 1950s, this company developed just-in-time production standards that employ Kanban scheduling.
I think this is Ford. Okay, Toyota. Oh, I was in the right realm. I just assumed that it would have been this Ford would have been more prevalent there, but yeah, Toyota makes sense. I shot my shot there. I was wrong.
While pretending to be Dutch, this character asks to be exempted from a requirement to trample on a crucifix.
I'm totally Dutch.
In his later years, he spends his days talking to horses. This man is charged with treason after he puts out a fire by urinating on a palace, which has outer walls.
I think this is Gulliver. Yeah. That's some weird and wild stuff that Lemuel Gulliver would get into. I think he probably urinated on the palace in Lilliput. So probably trampling on the crucifix would have been a Laputa thing, because those were the scientists, and I think the scientists were anti-religion. But there's a lot of lands that are pretty deep in Gulliver's Travels. Oh yeah, and he talks to horses because he goes to the. Yeah, there's a land where like the horses are the dominant life form and they can talk. So he would come back and talk to his own horses. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
For particles, this quantity is often expressed in units of mega-electron volts over the speed of light squared. This quantity must be zero for particles that move at the speed of light, such as photons. This quantity's value for a stationary particle is its rest value. Einstein showed the...
Yeah, that's a weird way to describe mass. Yeah, because as you get closer to the speed of light, your mass becomes zero. I think that's how that works. I think we've had a lot of quantum stuff in this week.
This term's most common definition, devised by David Held, depends on extensity, intensity, velocity, and impact. A Joseph Stiglitz book about this process and its discontents alleges that it proceeds according to the neoliberal Washington consensus. Many analysts claim that Donald Trump's advocacy of tariffs and trade wars marks a reversal of, for 10 points, what process of worldwide economic and...
They're just given the definition of globalization at the end there. Yeah, those first clues were very deep economic things that I was not aware of.
This novel describes a song about an unhappy woodpecker and wolf titled If Only, which is initially sung as a lullaby to pigs. The great-grandfather of this novel's protagonist was robbed by the outlaw Kissin Kate Barlow. Much of this novel is set at an arid juvenile corrections facility.
Oh, it's got to be holes then. It's like clues that I don't know anything about. Grandfather in a juvenile detention facility, and it's got to be holes. I have no knowledge there. Just basically any novel about a juvenile detention facility, you just buzz in and say holes.
This provincial governor rejected the advice of Cassius to abandon the Testudo formation when fighting enemies who could shoot arrows while retreating. He was killed while trying to negotiate with Serena during the Battle of Carrhae. After this man died, his Parthian foes supposedly poured molten gold down his throat. For 10 points, what wealthy Roman allied with Pompey and Julius Caesar in the First Triumvirate?
All right, the first, I think that was Crassus. Yeah. He was the wealthy member of the First Triumvirate. And also they said the other two members of the First Triumvirate, so... Yeah, I forgot his thing was that he was just super wealthy.
This architect designed a sky church auditorium at the center of a building shaped like a smashed broken guitar that houses Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture.
Yeah, I mean, Museum of Pop Culture was designed by Frank Gehry. It's not, and then they're going to go on to other stuff like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, other things that I don't remember right now. But yeah, Pop Culture Hall of Fame is Frank Gehry.
This man is the only winner of the Sixth Man of the Year award to later be named NBA MVP.
Yeah, James Harden did that. That's a basketball question I can get because it happened while I was alive. Yeah, he was Sixth Man for the Thunder. Back when they had 3 first overall draft picks playing for him. Was Harden first overall? I don't know. They had 3 at least first round draft picks, like playing them between him, Westbrook, and Durant. Really, like, this is basketball I can get because secret base. There's a lot of stuff about basketball, and I watch those, so I pick up off of that.
After this document went into effect, Samuel Huntington became president. This document aspired to create a firm league of friendship and declared that the Union shall be perpetual. The Annapolis Convention discussed trade barriers partly caused by this document, whose weak central government was replaced after the Constitutional.
I feel like this is the only document that could be the Articles of Confederation, the proto-constitution. Yeah, not much more to say about that other than it was the proto-constitution.
This poem describes a room filled with the odors of strange synthetic perfumes, where a woman sits on a chair that glows in candlelight like a burnished throne. Several sections of this poem mention the brown fog of the unreal city of London. Dull roots are said to be stirred by spring rain in this poem's first stanza, which begins April.
Yeah, it could have. April is the cruelest month. Very much T.S. Eliot in The Wasteland.
The Atterberg limits mark where this substance's properties alter due to changing water content. The study of this substance is divided into edaphology and pedology. Water-soluble nutrients are lost from this substance due to leaching. Its layers are called horizons, the topmost of which contains organic matter.
Oh, it was just soil. I thought it was going to be... I was so tentative there. I thought it was going to be something like the Earth's surface or crust or something like that. But hey, I'll take a soil there.
A king of this name was honored by a setting of "My Heart Is Indicting" that was performed along with Zadok the priest at a coronation. An earlier king of this name listened to a concert of 3 suites that included an a la hornpipe movement during an excursion on a river barge, causing the suites to be called the water music.
Yeah.
For 10 points, the composer Handel worked for 2 18th century English kings of what name?
Okay. Yeah. George is probably a better guess. I think Ludwig was fine too.
In June 2019, a former president of this country, while on trial for espionage, died of a heart attack in court. This country has cracked down on the Muslim Brotherhood, to which that former president, Mohammed Morsi, belonged.
Yeah, who's Morsi?
Massive protests in Tahrir Square during the Arab Spring.
This is just Egypt. Tahrir Square was the center of Arab Spring in Egypt. So we'll take that.
Pencil and paper ready.
Oh, no.
Addison needs to know the x and y coordinates of the intersection point of the lines 9x plus 2y equals 28 and 4x minus 2y equals 24. She realizes that the y terms can be eliminated by adding the equations together, allowing her to easily compute the value of x.
Yeah, a lot easier when you write it down.
The original equations then allows her to find, for 10 points, what coordinates of the intersection point.
Yeah, I'm not here for that.
While talking to Mr. Bernstein, this character remarks, "If I hadn't been very rich, I might have been a really great man." This character forces his second wife, the mediocre singer Susan Alexander, to perform at a Chicago opera house. He dies at his estate of Xanadu while saying the word rosebud.
Kane, yeah. The stately pleasure dome of Xanadu. Yeah, I guess that might be a pop culture, because I think that was just about the movie. Yeah, it's not based on anything. They didn't get deep into the what happens in the movie in Mank.
This country employed financier John Law, who encouraged colonial settlement in the 1700s. After allying with the Huron in the Beaver Wars, this country signed a treaty with Iroquois chiefs. The Acadians were descendants.
Yeah, it's France. Framps. guess they did sign with the because they were talking about that's the French and Indian War. Or that was definitely where the question was going.
The book of This Action and Forgetting is a 7-part novel by Milan Kundera. The Greek philosopher Chrysippus allegedly died doing this after seeing a donkey.
Yeah, he saw a donkey that was drunk from eating rotten fruit, and he laughed himself to death. Oh man, the Greeks had some awesome deaths. There's there was one philosopher who died from having a turtle, like a bird dropped a turtle on his head because the bird thought it was a hard rock. I mean, these are all probably apocryphal, but they're good stories. Yeah, laughing and forgetting. I've heard that from Kundera. Yeah, that's a good question. I like that one.
A city in this country contains elaborate billboards of the Galico Man and a giant mechanical crab. Man. In the 1970s, a KFC marketing campaign began this country's tradition of eating fried chicken.
That's just Japan. Yeah, KFC is a traditional, or has become a Christmas tradition in Japan.
For discovering the antiparticle of this particle,
now we're in
Owen Chamberlain and Emilio Segre won the 1959 Nobel Prize in Physics. The strong force binds 3 quarks to form this charged particle. This particle's antiparticle joins a positron to form an antihydrogen atom. Beta decay turns...
It's just a proton, then. They had an electron question earlier, now they had a proton question. Just knock them all out. I don't think we have enough time to get to neutrons, but...
In Virgil's Aeneid, the putrid dwelling place of this creature is described by the marooned Greek soldier Achaemenides. According to Ovid's Metamorphoses, this creature used a boulder to crush Acis, his rival for the nymph Galatea. After being attacked by a king who uses the alias Nobody, this giant asked his father...
I'll take some Greek myth. Those are some deep Polyphemus clues. Polyphemus being the Cyclops who briefly imprisons Odysseus and his crew during the Odyssey.
A massacre ensued after this man asked Pedro de Alvarado permission to celebrate a traditional festival. Bernal Diaz del Castillo claimed this man was stoned to death by his own people after encouraging them to capitulate to foreigners. This successor of Ahuitzotl died in 1520.
I feel like this is the only possible thing it could be at this point. Yeah. Because if we're Ahuitzotl, it's a very... yeah, I've been messing these up lately. Montezuma was Aztec. Yes. So, and Ahuitzotl is a very Aztec name. And the only thing they're going to ask about at this level is probably going to be Montezuma.
This novel's narrator drinks large quantities of wine at a vacation bungalow owned by Masson. At a police station, this novel's narrator testifies to the infidelity of a woman who was assaulted by Raymond Santez. The first paragraph of this novel reveals that the narrator is unsure of the exact date of his mother's death. Meursault is put on trial for shooting an Arab in, for 10 points, one novel by Albert Camus.
Okay, so it's The Stranger then. Oh yeah, because The Stranger starts out with a thing about the narrator's mom. I forgot about that.
In Spain, the play Don Juan Tenorio is traditionally staged on this holiday. The date of this holiday may have been moved to fall on the second day of the Celtic festival of Samhain. It is the...
Okay, yep, that makes sense. That is the counterpart to Halloween. And I guess Sam... I mean, you put Samhain in there and you talk about holidays, most people are going to buzz in and... Yeah, I think most Samhain is pretty intertwined with Halloween as well, but I guess it is pretty close to All Saints' Day.
Proteins can bind to this molecule at its major groove or at its minor groove. The helix-turn-helix motif allows proteins to bind to this molecule. A thermocycler is used to make...
it's just DNA. Yeah, DNA has a major and a minor groove. I was trying to overthink it. I was overthinking it. Like, is it like the ribosome? That could have a major and a minor groove on it because it interacts with DNA. But they weren't asking about an organelle. They're asking about a molecule.
Symbols of this island include a frog with a distinctive mating call, the coquille, which lives in this island's El Yunque rainforest. Until 2016,
Island.
the world's largest radio telescope was at this
Talking about Arecibo, but the Arecibo observing telescope fell apart. Or radio telescope, or whatever it was, it fell apart. I think I did pretty good this week. Did pretty good on this one this week. Just really buy into completely ignoring the computational math ones, and just going for the rest of them. Yeah, I felt good about how I played through this one. If you want to give these questions a try yourself, you can head over to naqt.com/buzzword and see if they got any games going for you. If you like the videos, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down there. That'd help me out a lot. All right, thanks for watching. We'll be back for more Buzzword.